Hello there, it's Carrie Rhoades here. Welcome back to the Trinity Stamps YouTube channel. In today's card making video, I am going to be using the brand new support ribbon die set. I had really a lot of fun at playing with this, and at first I wasn't sure like what else I would make with it, what else I could do, but I have some fun cards for you today. So let's take a close-up look at the layered support ribbon die set. You can see it's going to cut out all these pieces. You're going to cut them from 3 different colors using the guide on the back of the packaging and then glue them in place, and it's going to give you this like really 3D look. And I will say after you glue this together 1 or 2 times, you really get it down. It's not hard to do. So there's the ribbon in very different shades of pink, so you can see how it's supposed to go together. But I also want to show you, you can die cut just the largest piece and use your markers to color it in if you like that look. So after I did these 2 pink ribbons, I thought, you know, I really could do this from other colors. So before we move on to that, take a look at both of my pink ribbons. And then I decided I wanted to make a yellow ribbon because this is the one that has meaning in my life. So a yellow ribbon is in support of the military. At least that's what it means to me. It does represent other things as well. So then I decided I would add a little depth and shadowing with my Copic markers on the die cut and assembled ribbon. And I loved this look so much. I think this is my favorite way to use these, is to die cut it and add shadowing, especially if you don't have like a dark, medium, light of cardstock in the color that you really want your ribbon to be, kind of like my original die cut pink ribbon. So this is just one color, but I did die cut it. So I've got those lines and breaks where the die cut pieces meet, and that makes it a lot easier to get that shadowing in there. So loving how that turned out. I will go back and color up my pink one, as you can see here, so it's a little bit more cohesive. So now I've got the yellow and the pink, and I decided I'm gonna make a card using that yellow ribbon to show support of the military. Now, when I thought of military, I thought of making a camouflage background. I wasn't sure like how I was going to do that, but after looking at some inspiration pictures of camouflage, I decided I could color that with my Copic markers, right? And so that's what I did. I took a gray piece of cardstock and I'm coloring them up with my T2 markers. So tonal gray, you could use any gray that you have. And I did 4 different colors, T2, T4, T6, and T8. And I'm just doing little squiggles and coloring them in. Like, it's the easiest thing to do. One tip that I have for you is to have your shapes overlap each other. So as you start getting more shapes, you can have the little ends overlap the other shape, and that is really what brings it together as a camouflage background. So I'm just getting a little bit darker here, and I will say when I got to the end, I did go ahead and bring in one darker marker, which is like 110. It's what it's called. It's just like black Copic marker, and that really added to this background. So you can just see how I'm coloring them in, and I will proceed in this video to make 2 more camouflage backgrounds, and I have some like a little bit of a tip on how to color it faster on the 3rd card. You know, after you make so many, you kind of learn like, oh, what if I do this? And then it's much easier. So here you can see that 110 Copic marker, just like solid black, and that really is helping me to fill this in. So I would say 4 to 5 shades of one color is the best for doing Copic coloring of a camouflage background. So there you have it. I think it's super cool. And like, if you look at it really close, you might be able to nitpick some like, oh, why didn't I do that a little more rounded? But you know, if you just continue on, it's going to be great. So I'm doing a little dusting of black soot distress oxide ink on the edges. And when I was like cleaning up, I was like, I just cannot waste the ink on my mat. So I spritzed it with water and I'm splattering it all over. And don't you agree with me that splatter should be a part of every camouflage background? Yeah. Okay, for this card, I'm also bringing in the brand new Simply Sentimental Hope stamp set and die set. And by the way, this set also hot foils. It's so good. The dies coordinate with the stamps, but it's also a standalone die set. It's great. And if you're not familiar, Trinity Stamps has other Simply Sentimental stamps, like this Simply Sentimental U. It has the words courage and strength. So I'm going to pair that with my die cut and stamped word hope and go ahead and put all these things down on the card. I am popping up the word hope and gluing everything else down. You can see that little banner where I die cut out the word courage and strength. That little banner die is in the Simply Sentimental U. Now I'm bringing out some gold stars and adding those for embellishment around my ribbon. And I just love the yellow ribbon because I am a military spouse. We are a military family. My husband was in the Army. My sister was in the Army. My cousin, my husband's cousin, my other cousin, my cousin's spouse. Like, yeah, we're a military family. Not so much when I was growing up was I surrounded by military, but more once I became an adult. So this card would be great for somebody who's either having their spouse be away from them because of like a deployment, or you could even send this to someone that you know that's deployed, because everybody involved is brave and courageous and needs encouragement to be strong. And so this card means a lot to me, and I know that I'll be able to use it. So there's my first card, and once I got to thinking about coloring the ribbon or having it in different colors, I kind of looked up other things that were important in my life. I have a friend whose grandson has Downs, and he is the best. He's the best. I love hearing about him and all her little stories, and they do so much fun things, and his family is just wonderful. So I wanted to make a Down syndrome support ribbon with this set. So their colors are blue and yellow, so I thought, well, let's go ahead and make a blue camouflage background. Now, I know it's not military, but when you're wearing camouflage, think about this. You're like in the fight. You're ready to do battle. You're living it, right? So whatever you're doing battle with, whatever you're living, whatever you're surviving, whatever you're thriving in, whatever you're supporting, you're like wearing the camo of that thing, right? So I thought, let's do a camo background for everything and just have fun playing with these colors, coloring them out. I kind of did a little bit different shapes on this one, a little more rounded, not so bumpy. So I just had fun with it. And I used some faded jeans for the outer edge and of course the splatter. I had to continue that once I started it because that's so cool and I love splatter. I'm bringing back that Simply Sentimental U, and I'm going to do just a different sentiment on this one. So I'm going to emboss the word U, and I'm using some clear embossing ink. I prepped my paper with some anti-static powder, and then I can stamp this down, and I'm going to use some embossing powder that's from Wow. They came out with this collection of blue and yellow powders in support of Ukraine. And so when you buy this collection of powders, they actually donate some money in support of Ukraine. So I love that. And you can use it for other things like Down syndrome support. So I stamped that, embossed it, die cut it out, and the sub-sentiment I chose says, inspire me. So this one's going to say, you inspire me. And then I'm going to emboss that sub-sentiment with the yellow powder from that mix, and I'm doing it right on blue paper so that just plays even more into the blue and the yellow. So there we go. That's ready to go. I've got my things, but what I don't have yet is the actual ribbon. Now, the ribbon for Down syndrome support is half blue and half yellow. So I'm going to show you the gluing of this because I wanted you to see which sections I decided to do to make it look half blue and half yellow. So there you can see it come together. And I will go ahead and color this with Copic markers to add that shading and the shadowing. One other thing I wanted to point out is with my darkest blue marker, I actually colored the edge of the cardstock. I didn't show this in the video, so it wouldn't be too long of a video, but I wanted you to know wherever the blue ribbon is, I colored the edge of that paper with the blue as well. Now, originally I thought I was only going to use one shade of each color, but I did end up bringing in a second shade to really soften out those lines and make it look more shaded on the blue and the yellow. And I love the half and half ribbon. So cool. So there's really a lot more that you can do with this die set besides just a pink ribbon, because there's so many causes that have a ribbon that you can, you know, show your support by wearing, by die cutting and making a card. So the sky's the limit, really. So there's the markers I used, and then I brought in some packaging that's kind of like chipboard, and I die cut out this ribbon again from that. I wanted it to stand up off the card, but not quite as much as if I was going to use foam squares. So a little piece of chipboard does the trick. I like to save good pieces like that just in case. And then the sentiment is getting popped up on foam square, so it's going to be a little bit higher than my ribbon. And then I'll add that sentiment. I decided to go ahead and cut from that white chipboard a little layer for the banner as well, and just offset it so it had a little bit of a drop shadow. I needed it to like stand out more from that blue background. So the little bit of white there really helped. And then I can just trim off the excess that I don't need with my scissors. And then it's time to embellish. So I have these little, they're like baubles. They have a yellow backing and an iridescent top. They're really cool. So these are called Sun Glow. You can see that here. I will have everything that I've used today linked for you in the description box below, so you can check out the stuff from the Trinity Stamps shop. And that finishes out card number 2. I have one more because I had to go back and make a pink card with my pink ribbon. I love how that die cut ribbon turned out once I added the shadowing with the Copic markers. So here's the thing that I learned to make doing the camouflage so much easier for card number 3. I really only had like 4 markers that I wanted to use. So I decided to make my camo shapes bigger. And when I was coloring it in, I was like, oh, this is going to take forever. So I decided I would use that chisel tip that I hardly ever use on the other end of the marker. You know which one I'm talking about, right? Yeah, so it made this go so much smoother. The shapes were nice and smooth. So much ink came out. It was just so fast and easy. And it made me love doing the camouflage background even more than I did when I made the first one. So here you can see how that comes together. Now, I did greatly speed this up, so it appears to go together really fast, but it really isn't too bad in real time. I like to listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube video maybe while I'm doing this. So it's just one of those like kind of relaxing things. You don't have to think about shading or blending. You don't really have to think about going out of the lines. If you go out of the lines, just make another little bump in your camouflage. It works great. So there's the 4 colors I chose to use on top of pink cardstock, and we're going to dust the edge of this one as well. I chose to do some Kitsch Flamingo, however, I felt that it was a little bit too light, so I went in with a second color, and that is Worn Lipstick, and that did the trick. Now, I think I got a little bit too much on there. I think my Kitsch Flamingo pad is very juicy, so it kind of took away a little bit of that camo, but, you know, once you spritz it and splatter it, it's so good. All right, so now what I decided to do on this one is try to stamp right onto the ribbon itself. So I took my negative piece, so I could use that as a guide to kind of round out my stamp so it could go in the same kind of curve as the ribbon itself. And it worked pretty good. I think I could try better next time. Like I could scoot it over a little bit at the bottom, yet curve it more. But in the end, it was stamped down on this ribbon that I spent a lot of time on, and I decided I'm just going to go with it. You know, it does not have to be perfect. Let's just go with it. So I'm gluing this one onto a die cut piece of black glitter cardstock to give it a little bit of a drop shadow and bring in another element of black, just like the black stamping. Now this is the hot foiled word hope from the Simply Sentimental Hope set. This is the first set of Simply Sentimental that has hot foiling in it, and I think it's so cool. All right, these are the pink Twinkle rhinestones that just came out. I'm going to put these around this die cut, just like I did with the other ones. You got to have a little bling on there. Well, I do anyway. And then I'm going to glue this down to my A2 size card. So all of these are A2 size. The card base is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So there you can see the finished card. And now let's look at all 3 of these together. I'm sure as you're watching this, you could probably think of other support ribbons in different colors that you could make, and maybe who you'd want to send them to. So Thank you so much for stopping by and letting me share this with you and my crazy camouflage background that I had so much fun with. And I also will have links in the description box to all the things I'm using. And if you would like more inspiration from Trinity Stamps, come find us on Instagram and Facebook too. We have new stuff for you all the time, and our blog as well. So those are linked for you in the description box as well. And I'll be back again in a couple weeks with another new video right here on the Trinity Stamps channel. Happy stamping! Bye!